All right, and welcome to Southern Outdoor Media. This is podcast number 2, and I'm here today with Hunter Sales, head coach Carson Newman.
And best guest today, right?
Best guest today.
Right,
Guest,
good.
yeah, not totally not guest number 1, but yeah. So we're pretty much just gonna do a rundown. We're gonna run down Harris Chain, kind of what went down there because that's what we talked about in podcast number 1. I think we kind of hated on that place a little bit, but it actually turned out all right. And then we're going to talk about just college fishing in general, high school and coaches and recruiting and just kind of like what the day in the life happens and kind of happens throughout your entire time of starting high school to college to graduating college. So, I'll start with we were in Harris Chain for 2 weeks. The MLF tournament didn't go so well for me. It didn't go well for Carson, who talked last week. I don't think it went well for either of us. We did qualify a few guys from the Carson Newman team in that one. Rolled on into the bass. We totally switched up what we were doing. Went and cracked the biggest bag of my life on day one. Had 24-7, 24-6, 24-7. The entire team caught them.
Yeah,
Day one.
5 in the top 50 after the first day.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I completely bombed day 2. But we still ended up qualifying 3 guys. Learned a lot. You learn a lot about, when you do catch them, do you lay up? Do you try to go for the win? You don't ever get the chance to win very much. But, looking back at it, we probably had a better chance of winning, not doing what we did. And I think most people know after the Apopka appeal article was released that we were in Apopka. And, boat number is a big player for that. And it was you learned a lot, for sure. I think everyone learned a lot.
Man, that's always been in fishing. It's such a fine line between when do you swing, when do you putt, when do you try to hit a home run, what do you do? And you guys were in such a funny place having that just giant bag on day 1, knowing what lives where you're going fishing. I mean, that's a very tough decision. People at the highest level struggle with that. I mean, it's ultimately what makes and breaks you, though. That's what college is for, to learn.
For sure, yeah. And we're all out here learning. Heck, I think if anyone's been keeping up with the MLF over this week, local Tennessee guy, David Walker did the same thing. 28 pounds day 1, rolled in day 2, caught 10 pounds. I mean, I think it's a Florida thing.
Yeah.
I've decided I hate Florida.
Dude, it's all about, as Skylar Hamilton would say, it's all about hope. Whoever hopes the most going in any given day, you get one big bite and it just changes the whole course of your day. I mean, that's what makes Florida such a dang wild card. Not a big fan myself.
Yeah, no, Florida's definitely not the best place to be. But rolling past that was a big talk we had 2 weeks ago, or maybe even 3 weeks ago now. It's been a while, but I really wanted to talk about just college fishing in general. And when I came up through the high school side, I honestly had a very successful high school career through the state of Tennessee. And the biggest thing when it came for me knowing what I know now, the best thing I did in high school was travel. I went to all the Bass Opens, and me and Dad, we'd hook the boat up and just drive to Guntersville one day. And I know you really didn't fish much in high school.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal yet. I was still playing baseball, stuck on that track. But yeah, and I know we just talked about it all the time, but the amount that high school fishing has grown between, when I was there, let's just call it 8-9 years ago, to now. I mean, it's just incredible what that's turned into. And you are starting to see more of the national level, almost a trail at this point that a lot of high schoolers try to go fish. And, I think that is helping the talent level as a whole coming into college. At least they're ready.
Yeah.
They know what to expect.
That was for sure. And I think that was, when I was coming up to it, it wasn't new, but it was still a growing sport. And I considered I was probably one of the first 5 years of, traveling as much as I did. And I think that was definitely what set me apart from probably half the field out there, most kids. And I think for any high schoolers wanting to take it seriously and get to that collegiate level, that's a huge thing, and having putting your name out there. I guess traveling, that's what traveling does,
Well, yeah, and not jumping ahead of ourselves. I know we're going to dive into this in a minute, but from a recruitment standpoint, when you got two kids on paper side by side and one has traveled and one hasn't, in college, we don't fish very many tournaments in Tennessee. We have one or two a year, and that's pretty much it. We got lucky this year having one in the home pond here, but the kid who's been all over, well-seasoned, has seen some places, I mean, it's definitely a huge advantage. And that college fishing too, man, that's why college fishing is such a good thing. You see guys that are still even fishing college or 1 year out that are fishing invitationals, the elites, whatever it may be. Those guys have been to Florida 3 or 4 times. They've been there and done that, whereas, somebody like me who only fished 1 year of college before kind of making that jump, your first time going to Florida is in the opens, and it's going to take you 2 or 3 4 years for a lot of people until you feel comfortable. So that's, definitely a huge advantage of people getting to fish in college.
Oh yeah, I'd agree. I'd say I've been going to Florida for the past 3 years now, and I think this was the first year I actually could say, I wouldn't say I felt comfortable, or I didn't have the good finishes, but I had the better finishes, and I had the thought of kind of what was going on, and it takes, as any lake, even your home lake, you didn't learn your home lake because you just fished it every day for a year. It takes years.
And Florida's even worse, I feel like, because dude, my first time down there, I don't know how you were, but when I first went down there, being from Tennessee, and you watch places like Florida on TV every week on Saturday afternoon in the Outdoor Channel, whatever. And you show up and there's just lily pads for miles.
Yeah.
And it just looks beautiful. Yeah. You think that you could just pull up anywhere and fish, and you learn really quickly that's not the case. It's really specific areas, patterns, and things like that. And so, first week or two I was down there fishing. I didn't catch hardly anything. So definitely an overwhelming. Florida's a different beast. But it's fun this time of year. Yep. Good weather.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say you would probably agree. We had a good trip.
Had an awesome
trip. Enjoyed
the
life. Pick up basketball. Yeah.
Pick up basketball was a great time.
Yeah.
But
shout out to the UNA team. Better than we thought.
Yeah. They gave us a run for our money.
Yeah. I'm still sore from those games.
But, so I think that, high schoolers or any high schooler listening to this, you're definitely wanting, travel, get the experience, and just build your resume. That's building your resume. That's boosting your name. I think all that, people tell you to boost your name, boost your social media, boost your, you have a resume. Mm-hmm. You can't do that if you don't travel for the most part. So that's why I think.
Man, and we talk about it even here at the college level. What's fun and what's easy is to go out to, let's just throw something out there, to go out there to your favorite hole in Cherokee and throw a crankbait, your favorite little steep bank, and wind your plug around. And you can catch more fish doing that than you probably can going to try to learn something new, but you're not getting any better.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in high school. No matter where you're from, what you're doing, you can fish the same 3 or 4 lake trail every year. And probably, as far as wins and stuff, look
probably
good.
Doing good, yeah.
Look good, but you got to think about, freshman year of college, your first trip's probably going to be to Dardanelle. You ready for that?
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's ever ready. No one's ever ready to go to Dardanelle right off the bat.
That's a tough one.
Sure. No, it's
but the more you travel, the more comfortable you are trying to break places down.
And even being prepared, just having equipment and being prepared to travel is a huge thing.
Because it's not easy.
It's not. It's definitely.
Stuff breaks.
All the time.
Every tournament.
Every time something goes wrong. I mean, you're putting 1,000 miles on your stuff about every time.
Yep. So. It's definitely unlike any other sport from that standpoint.
For sure.
You got to have everything in order.
For sure. So, let's. You kind of touched on it a little bit, recruiting. Yeah. I don't have much say in that, but what do you look for as a coach on a collegiate level?
Yeah, and it's this is a really popular question. I think it's going to be good, to get this out there in one place. So if you are a high schooler listening, start early. Don't wait until senior year, March or April, and start calling colleges, because at that point, it's too late. And college fishing is weird. It's not like your college football, high-level basketball schools where you're going to be getting, email after email. It's knocking down your door trying to offer you $13 million NIL money to come fish. It's going to be, you're probably going to have to go out on a limb and try to get your name out there, because the reality is there's just, the fishing tournaments are so spread out. There's so many. There's like in Tennessee, there's 5 trails to keep up with. I mean, it's you can be a fifth in the points on one of the trails, and you may not. You may get, you may slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
And so start early, trying to get connected with people. Grades are super important. That's been a hot and heavy topic for our team right now, with just as much class as we miss.
Yeah,
and so,
sure.
When you're looking at a kid coming into college, if his GPA is already not good, kind of red flags, because it's going to be hard. If you're already not great in school, when we're traveling the first 2 weeks of the semester, you're probably going to have a rough time with it. And so, that side of things. But then, going into the fishing standpoint, which is part people care about most, is when you look at the ability to pattern fish, break down a new lake, just be somewhere by yourself, somewhere you've never been, and have to go through the process in your head of being able to figure out what are these fish doing, and even more so, what are they going to be doing in 2 days? Because a lot of times in high school, you may, you don't practice, so you go and you find something, you just run it. First day of practice for a college tournament where we get 3 days, you got to kind of understand the trend that's happening. And that's what happened at Apopka too. You talk about that. Man, you practiced down there. It wasn't that good.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't great by no means.
But you have to understand, the trends that are happening. It's probably going to get good. And so for a high school angler, comfort running your own boat, breaking places down. And that's why I try to talk on the phone with guys. And, it's not foolproof, because you don't ever know until you get in the boat. But ultimately, if you hear the way somebody talks about fishing, me and when we have a conversation with somebody pretty quick, if they've got half of it at least.
Yeah, for sure. And that's so I can attest to that whole thing. I know I started talking to you very early on, and did all that, and I showed up to the camps, and I always had a conversation, maybe once a month. I always sent just a text. I'm sure it's probably annoying, but
you get a lot of them. But it helps. So you got to have those.
Of course, and then it's all about you have a set list of places you're looking at, and and you're not really sure, and and you're talking to all these coaches, and it really came down. I always kind of knew that this is where I was going to go, but I toured a few other places. Yeah. I went to Bryan. I went to Carson Newman. I went to Bethel. I talked to some other people, and it all just this is what was best for me, and this is what it came down to. So
I tell everybody you need to visit as many places as you can, because there's not. Obviously, like, I've worked here for 5 years. We got the team started. Like, I'm partial to it. I could sit here and talk about how great Carson Newman is, and that wouldn't surprise anybody listening, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's not right for everybody. There's a certain fit that's right. The club teams are a better fit for some. The coach teams are a better fit for some. It's all about what you're looking for, what's going to help you be successful as a person. And you got to kind of know what pushes you, what drives you, what you need, stuff like that. In a place just where you feel like you're going to be able to get better. You're going to have opportunities, you have a chance to get better. And there's a lot of good places out there to go fish now. And that's what's good about being in high school. Don't pigeonhole yourself into saying, I'm only going to look at one school, because it's tough to get recruited now. Yeah. There's a lot of people with a lot of interest to come to places, and it's getting to the point that, you got to pick the best people you think you can bring in. And so, definitely keep your options open when it comes to where you're going to go and stuff like that.
For sure. And I guess
relationship with guys on the team too. Like, like the high schoolers that are, in your head, you know which high schoolers can catch them.
Yeah. And there's high schoolers I talk to, and there's ones I've kept up with through the years. And I think I was kind of the same way. I went to those camps starting it was either my sophomore or my junior year, and early. I knew all those first guys, and even some of the seniors now. I met those guys, and I was able to talk to them and, keep up with them. And I don't know if they kept up with me or not, but, it was.
No, you had a lot of people who tested.
And you know those people, you remember those names, and people do the same in reality.
It takes effort to build those relationships.
Sure, yeah.
But I would say out of the kids we're bringing in this year, maybe half of them have had personal relationships with guys on the team that said, this kid's got it.
Yeah.
And so, definitely don't hurt.
No, I think that's...
And you're learning, even if they don't, if you don't get to the school you want to go to, if you can fish with a guy who's in college, and, the big leg up.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
eye-opening, man. When you're in high school, all you see is, like, what's right there.
Yeah.
You know, like, no offense, my dad taught me a ton. You know, if Dad's watching, I'm sorry, but you can't just learn the one-dimensional what my dad taught me.
Yeah.
You got to go out and fish with different people and learn different skill sets. And so, you know, obviously that might help you get recruited if you made a relationship with some guy on a college team, but how much better would it make you too?
Yeah, true. And
you fishing PFLs
that's
how you learned.
That was my whole claim to fame. That's how I learned doing it by myself. Because you're right, I learned from my dad and, you know, 2 or 3 of his closest buddies. You know, if I wasn't fishing a tournament with him, I was fishing a tournament with them. I mean, they all did. They threw a jig and a Texas rig. That's what we went and did. That's what we went and did every tournament. We know.
Pretty good.
Yeah, you know, May we'd go throw a pop art around.
Yeah,
that's about it though. We never did anything different, and it wasn't until I guess my junior year I started fishing. You know, a lot by myself and with my high school partner. We'd just go fish. I learned a lot from him. Yeah, props to him. He loved to be up the river. I loved to be down the lake, and I hated being in 6 inches of water. But
that's funny.
Honestly,
dude.
He taught me a lot.
I would almost say that's your preference now. Is the shallow fishing.
Yeah, and he taught me.
Wow.
I would never tell him that, but he probably taught me a lot more versatility than anyone else I know. So
yeah,
just
that's cool.
And he hated fishing deep.
Yeah.
And he hated it. And, you know, I taught him what a school was. And we learned how to catch deep fish. And now he loves doing that in the summer. So it's crazy how that works and just getting in the boat with different people.
That is cool. And there's just so many kids doing it in high school now. You gotta stand out, however that is. I mean, if it's your relationships, your travel, you know. And when it comes down to it, like, this sport is funny, man. And you get reminded of this all the time. You can get lucky. You can have streaks of success. Dude, you got to outwork people.
For sure.
Mean, you've seen it.
You got to.
The guys who work the hardest, maybe not in a 2-month sample size. You know, maybe they don't make the most improvement in that 2 months. But if you work hard enough for a long enough period, they get there. And I'm going to pick on Gavin, like, while we're sitting here. You know, he was working really hard a couple of years ago and came to me a little bit and was frustrated. He wasn't seeing the results at the time. And fast forward 2 years, and he's still been working hard. Now you start to see the chips fall.
And now it's laying down.
And so in high school, like, don't rely on other people, info, stuff like that. Like, get out there and outwork people.
Yeah,
that's what's going to pay off.
And I think that it was that way. It's all about fishing, just getting on the water as much as you can. I think, you know, I saw it the COVID year, which was.
That was an awesome year. We got to fish
so my gosh. I fished every single day because, heck, I was in high school, so I didn't do school. I didn't work either because I was a junior. And I think me and my high school partner, I don't know how many tournaments we won that year because literally we fished every single day. We knew if a bass moved 5 feet to the right, we knew it. And it's amazing just being on the water and following fish and understanding them, how much it makes a difference.
Everybody wants to, like, know the latest, greatest thing, the technique that's going on, all this and all that. Like, we make bass fishing so complicated, but really it's that simple. If you get out there and, like, put the time in and learn how bass act during certain weather conditions, certain times of year, it's not rocket science.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I guess we got on a little bit of a tangent, but
so that's my fault. I always do that.
That's how that's honestly the reality of recruiting and everything, though, and how that works. And it's really just
put the time in.
Put the time in.
People notice.
Everything will fall into place.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
You know, and we'll touch base real quick. But after you get to where you're at, and you know, and I showed up, and I was like, what am I getting into? I didn't know, you know. And you don't really understand what college fishing is until your first semester. And my first semester, I went to South Carolina 3 times, went to Georgia once. I went down to Chickamauga. I went everywhere all the time, and I traveled more. I mean, I traveled a lot in high school, but I traveled more that 1 month than I'd ever traveled in my entire life. And, you know, and you learn to balance traveling and school, and it's a whole
you grow up quick.
You grow up real quick. You learn, you know, I go to class, I go to the lake, I come home, I do homework, I go upstairs, I edit, and I work for another hour, and you can't stay up all night. You have to go to bed.
Well, and probably the biggest lesson you learn, and we're not going to talk about this because your audience will absolutely hate it, but the biggest lesson you probably learn is no matter what you're doing in life, like, there's only so much time in a day.
There,
You gotta be smart about how you allocate it,
Yeah.
you know? And so I'll just quit at that. But I mean, like, ultimately, like, if you want to do good at the podcast, the editing, the YouTube, the whatever you're trying to do, the fishing, you got to have a select few priorities because there's not time for everything.
There's not, and especially when you throw in, you know, when you don't have to go to class, it's a little bit different. You have a full day, but when I go to class, I catch myself. I'll come home, I'll sit on the couch, I'll watch an episode on Netflix.
Yeah, there's an hour.
And there's an hour. Just
Yeah.
And that hour ruined my entire afternoon of what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you catch yourself at 10 o'clock still trying to get stuff done. And
I think what you're getting at is coming out of high school, that how much free time you've got.
Mhm.
I mean, that's like what determines if somebody's going to have a successful college career or not. A lot of times is, can they learn how to use their free time in a good way?
Yeah.
Or are they going to go off the left-hand road?
I think because
and
in high
not
school it
make
didn't
one
matter.
of the
Yeah,
year?
it didn't matter in high school. You know.
Well, and you got mom and daddy
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
that,
You didn't have to cook dinner, and you know you didn't really. I mean, I'm sure some people worked. I worked a little bit. I didn't work all the time, especially while I was in school. I went to the lake.
What do you think? You know, like to come in and be ready, because I don't feel like anybody's ever ready when you come into college for what's about to happen. As far as like the amount of travel and stuff, like what would you advise guys to do?
I don't know if that's even possible.
Yeah,
I don't
probably
think
not.
it's possible. I think it's different for everyone. I think everyone has to adjust in their own way. I think the best you could do is come with your boat and your truck in the best shape it's ever been, and
hope it stays.
and hope it stays that way. And then you just have to learn how to do school and manage time as you go, because it was different for me than it is for my roommate Carson. It's different. It's different for everybody when it comes to fishing, and it really comes down to, you know, are you trying to fish pro, or are you trying to just fish a couple days a week and work and do it? I think it's
and that's what's cool about college fishing is it can work for so many different career paths.
yeah.
I mean, because we've got the guys on our team that want to fish pro and behave like they want to fish pro. There's a big difference there too, because you can say you want to do it, but you can look at who's behaving like they want to, who's fishing a lot, who's working on themselves in the industry, keeping their ducks in a row and things like that. And then you've got guys who just want to work in the industry. Yeah. And that needs to be a whole different approach. I mean, you still got to fish, you know, you're here to fish.
Still do fish.
I'm going to make you work hard at it. But,
for sure.
You know, like you got to put just as much time on the other side of things. And you have some people that just do it for fun, and we don't have a ton of those people on the team.
No.
You know, the goal is to get a bunch of people who want to be super successful at it. And some of the people who do it for fun are successful, so I'm not saying they're not.
Oh, yeah. No.
But there's a lot of kids in college that are just doing it because, like, man, I just want to go fish with my buddies. And it's good for them. They have the time of their life, you know, and so it's...
And I think that's what it comes to programs. You know, when we were talking about what programs and what you're selecting, you know, you come here and, you know, I would say we're a coach team. We have your full travel plans and all that, and you're here to be successful, but you go to community college down the road and you're there to have fun, most likely, and enjoy your time.
You just got more freedom.
Yeah.
You know, and if you veer too far off the path here, you know, I'm going to put a spike strip down, and that's going to be the end of the road.
Yeah,
you know, and
for sure.
At a community college, you kind of got to figure out your own balance.
And that's for someone wanting to just go fish. And
they learn a lot of responsibility that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a lot of respect. I've said that from
there's
the start.
nothing wrong with it, for sure.
Dude, I've said that from the start. Like, I've got so much respect for the guys at, like, UT and Auburn and places because, like, no offense to anybody at Carson Newman, but, like, you know, I got guys, we need to raise some money. We need to go do this. We got guys that don't want to work because they don't understand what all has to go into it. You guys at UT and Auburn and places that raise their money, they're learning, like, what all you have to do to get the funding in this sport to be successful.
Yeah.
And so they're having to work super hard, and I respect the heck out of them for it. But, you know, it goes back to what we said.
Yeah.
It's all about what is best for you when you're coming out of high school.
For sure. And I don't know exactly what goes on over in schools like that. I don't know if you do either, but I mean, I'm sure that, you know, they have their president. They don't have a coach. But when it comes to raising funds and all that, which I think this would probably be pretty cool to have someone come on and talk about this, because I could see that being, you know, they're working together to raise their money to travel for the year versus yeah, we raise our portion, but we're not,
Right,
I don't say I worry about it
The
that
school
much. Yeah.
puts in the
Yeah,
chips,
and they're trying to pay their entire way,
Right.
and I honestly don't think I worry about it that
Right.
much compared to guys like that. I've never really thought about that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, it's, and so I guess that's my kind of thing of like, I don't want anybody to hear that like that's a bad option because these guys work hard.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, and I'd say that probably it about wraps up our night. That was
that was fun. I could do that all night.
that's what I wanted to touch on. That was cool. I think that helped anyone watching that's trying to get up to this level. I think that helps them. It sheds a little light on kind of how to get there, what to expect. It's a huge jump. It's a huge change. And yeah, I think it was awesome. That was a great time. I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Best guess.
Best one yet.
Best guess yet. And for everyone that watched and enjoyed, please drop a like, drop a subscribe.
Ask some questions.
I like questions. If we could get some questions, I'm going to try to do like a little poll for next week because we have some cool stuff. We have the Classic coming up, the MLF Natty. We can talk about that next week. We have a bunch of stuff coming up. So yeah, drop some questions. I would love to answer some questions on here. Take like 5 minutes and do that.
That'd be cool.
So yeah, just let us know. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.